Welcome to Screen Scan. Today, we delve into the thrilling world of All Good Things, a 2010 movie. Follow David, Ryan Gosling, and Katie, Kirsten Dunst, as their seemingly perfect marriage unravels amidst dark secrets and a murder investigation. Inspired by a true story, this gripping film will keep you on the edge of your seat with its chilling tale of love, lies, and betrayal. Stay tuned as we unravel the mystery of All Good Things. The film opens with a nostalgic, almost ghostly atmosphere as the camera glides over 1970s New York City. Then, there's David Marks, a young man in an impeccably tailored suit, who watches the bustling world with a distant, melancholic gaze. His wealth is evident, but so is a quiet sadness that lingers in his eyes, hinting at something deeper. His family owns a powerful real estate empire, an empire built brick by his father, Sanford Marks, a formidable and controlling man. The pressure of the family name weighs heavily on David's shoulders, his unease palpable in every movement, every interaction. He is a man trapped, not by lack of opportunity, but by expectations too high to meet. After that, David meets Katie, a woman who is a striking contrast to him. She is brimming with natural energy, exuding youth and a carefree attitude. Her laughter is infectious, and her vibrant spirit is full of potential. Their encounter feels almost enchanted, like fate brought them together. There's an instant connection, a magnetic chemistry that pulls David toward her. Katie's liveliness and ability to embrace the present are the opposite of David's nature, yet it's exactly what fascinates him. As the two begin dating, and their relationship seems blissful at first, they move out of New York City to Vermont, where they attempt to start a simpler, quieter life by running a health food store. The idyllic countryside and their newfound domestic happiness create a sense of warmth and escape from David's past life. One afternoon, Sanford approached David and asked, "Aren't you sorry you gave up a promising career in real estate?" David, without hesitation, responded with a firm no. His answer was straightforward, but it didn't deter Sanford from pushing further. It was clear Sanford believed David had made a poor choice in walking away from a lucrative path, a decision that to him seemed impulsive and misguided. Sanford didn't stop there. He went on to suggest that David's girlfriend, Katie, wouldn't live the kind of life they had, privileged but chaotic. There was an undertone in his words, hinting that perhaps Katie was too good for the kind of lifestyle their family had. He implied that their life, though filled with luxury, was also filled with dysfunction, something he thought Katie would never embrace or understand. David, however, remained calm and confident. Instead of being rattled by his father's remarks, he simply replied, "Isn't that great?"
Isn't that great?
His response was both a defense of Katie and a reflection of his own contentment. Unlike the messy, privileged life Sanford described, David cherished the peace and simplicity he found in his relationship with Katie. For David, this exchange highlighted the stark contrast between his father's values and his own. Where Sanford saw wealth and status as measures of success, David found fulfillment in the love and tranquility he shared with Katie. This moment reinforced David's belief that walking away from real estate and choosing a different path was the right decision for him. It was right after that tense moment, as David's hand gripped the steering wheel tightly, that he began to mumble under his breath, barely audible but enough to catch Katie's attention. Katie's gaze shifting from the road to his face, wondering what was going through his mind. It was a subtle but strange behavior of David. Yet, despite its simplicity, the act left the audience with a flood of questions. Why did David feel the need to do it now, in this moment, and what was he really thinking? After having dinner with Katie's family, David finally proposes to her, confident that their relationship is perfect. However, it doesn't take long for the flaws in their seemingly ideal life to surface when Sanford Marks reappears in the picture. Sanford is a looming figure, omnipresent, casting a long shadow over David's life. Sanford is a man who embodies control, towering, stern, and impeccably dressed in dark, sharp suits that reflect the cold, corporate world he commands. His voice, though not loud, is authoritative and final, each word carefully measured, dripping with disapproval. Sanford still is displeased with David's choice to leave the family business behind and pressures him to return. This relationship with his father becomes a constant source of stress for David. As David struggles with the demands of his father and the weight of his family legacy, his relationship with Katie begins to deteriorate. The couple returns to New York becomes a turning point in the story. The city, with its towering skyscrapers, endless responsibilities, and unrelenting pace, symbolizes David's suffocating reality. The pressure to conform to his father's demands, to step into a life he never wanted, grinds away at him, pushing him closer to the edge. Reluctantly, David resumes his work under Sanford's watchful eye, and it's here that his descent into darkness accelerates. Katie brings up the idea of having a child with David, but he responds bluntly with a firm "not ever." Though Katie senses something is off with David, she can't quite put her finger on it. Their relationship remains stable for a while, until Katie learns the truth about David's mother's death from his friend, Deborah. Soon after, Katie discovers she's pregnant, and David sees it as a major issue, as he never wanted children. When Katie reassures him that their child won't be like him, it only enrages David, leading him to pressure her into considering an abortion. After a few years, the couple sort of live in a separate life as David continues to work in the city, and on the other hand, Katie plans to continue her dream to enter in medical school. One evening, following Katie's graduation, her family hosted a celebration, but David appeared eager to leave. His impatience got the best of him, and instead of enjoying the gathering, he hurriedly pulled Katie away in front of her family, creating an uncomfortable scene. After that night, Katie began planning to leave David, but he threatened her, warning that if she left, he would no longer support her lifestyle. Deep down, Katie realized she no longer truly knew the man she had married. Despite this, she felt trapped and saw no other option but to stay with him. Katie finds herself ensnared in the toxic web of the Marks family. What was once a relationship built on escape and love has become a suffocating trap. The dynamic between them shifts dramatically. David becomes more controlling, his moods more volatile, and Katie, once independent and vibrant, is slowly drained of her confidence. As the warmth of their early romance fades, fear and tension take its place, casting a dark shadow over their marriage. David's outbursts grow increasingly unpredictable. He isolates himself from Katie, shutting her out emotionally and physically. The psychological grip he holds over her tightens with each passing day. His behavior, once charmingly unpredictable, now borders on dangerous. Katie breaks into David's office. She hesitates for a moment, feeling the weight of her decision, before stepping in. She begins to move towards the desk, her heart pounding, fingers trembling as she flips through the papers. Some of them look like typical financial records, but others, her breath catches, they're much more than that. Suddenly, Katie found a drawer full of typical records. She hesitates, knowing this could be the moment where everything changes, but she can't stop herself now. Slowly, she opens the drawer and found the folder she was looking for. Inside are documents, photos, letters, evidence that David has been hiding much more than she ever realized. The room seems to close in around her as she realizes the full extent of what she's found. It becomes clear to her that David's secrets go far beyond what she imagined. This moment of invasion feels dangerous, but it's also a small act of rebellion. She sends these papers to her divorce lawyer. This is a pivotal move, as Katie realizes that David has been hiding significant and potentially dangerous secrets, and the documents are crucial evidence. By sending them to her lawyer, she aims to safeguard herself and build a case against David, especially as their relationship continues to deteriorate and she seeks to leave him. This act underscores her growing fear and awareness of the darker aspects of David's life. After Katie sends the incriminating documents to her divorce lawyer, tensions between her and David escalate significantly. This marks the beginning of her attempt to separate from him both emotionally and legally, but it also provokes David, who becomes increasingly erratic and controlling. Katie didn't return home right away. Instead, she went to her family's house and spent the entire day there. Later, she called David and told him that he needed to let her go, but he insisted she come home, promising he could fix things. Even though she was drunk, she still managed to drive home. Once she arrived, Katie started looking for their dog, especially since David had been with it. David claimed the dog was in the kennel, but Katie knew that was a place the dog disliked. Suspicious about the dog's absence, Katie soon discovered that David was responsible. Furious, she grabbed a shovel and confronted David again. And no one knows what happened on the couple on that night. David went into his father's house. During a tense conversation with his father, David finally uncovers the painful truth about his mother's death. He confronts his father, attempting to appear more threatening than him. Sanford urges David to return home to his wife. However, David refuses, revealing that Katie is gone. He then accuses his father of making him become just like him. After Katie disappeared, no one knew where she had gone. David told others that the last time he saw his wife was when he put her on a train heading back to the city. Some people claim to have seen Katie afterward, leading to a significant investigation, but David was never considered a suspect. As the year 2000 approaches, the cold case of Katie Marks' disappearance from 1982 is reopened by detectives, reigniting the investigation into her whereabouts and the potential involvement of her husband, David Marks. Despite the case going unsolved for nearly 2 decades, the suspicion surrounding David never dissipated, and new investigators are determined to seek justice for Katie. David is now living in Texas and looks drastically different due to his cross-dressing. He meets his neighbor, Malvern Bump, for the first time. As the investigation into Katie's disappearance is reopened, Deborah begins reaching out to David again, continuing to receive calls from the police about the case. When Deborah reaches out to David, she requests money from him, suggesting that both are concealing something about Katie's disappearance, almost as if they have a mutual understanding. To maintain this secrecy, Deborah appears to require financial compensation for her silence. Deborah continues to contact David, but David on the other hand kept avoiding her calls. David became good friends with Malvern. As a result, a mutual trust developed between the two. As a sign of that trust, he even gave his house key to Malvern. One day, Deborah calls David again, but this time she threatens him that she will blow the lid off things. She continued that David knows what she is talking about. And with that, Deborah got out of the taxi as she welcomed with a vehicle outside of her house, thinking that might be David. As soon as she got into her house, she was killed by Malvern. Malvern then calls David and assures him that everything is taken care of, suggesting that David may have assigned Malvern to take care of Deborah. After that, Malvern keeps contacting David because David must have made him a deal. Upon returning home, David noticed that Malvern's belongings were outside this room, indicating that Malvern had been kicked out of his home. David discovered Malvern was watching his television when he heard it was open. Malvern said, "I trusted you," as soon as David walked inside his home and grabbed a gun. Malvern was killed in the altercation between them. David said that Malvern's death was an act of his self-defense, but he refrained from calling the police because he believed that his wife's absence would create suspicion on his account. David then disposes of Malvern's body. In the next scene, the judge questions David about whether he killed Deborah and if he can see any link between her death and his wife's disappearance. David responds with a firm no. As a result, both Deborah's death and Katie's disappearance remain unsolved mysteries. In the end, before Sanford's death, David made one final visit to his father. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more exciting content. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.